welcome to another episode of the Who Dat Jedi podcast. This is episode 266 for your record books. My name is Aaron. With me, as always, Dave and Fredo, the other members of the Who Dat Jedi Council. How are you guys?
Doing good.
Doing well.
So, there's going to be a rare sighting if you are out in the wild on Saturday. We're recording this. This is the 9th of July. So we're talking about the 11th of July on Saturday morning. The annual Running of the Bulls in New Orleans is going on. And it was one of the times when the three of us are all in the same place at the same time. And I think that's going to happen again. Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
So
probably. I haven't committed myself yet.
All right, hold on just a second now. Okay, just a second. Before I tell people what the Running of the Bulls is here, I'm playing a gig tomorrow night from 9 to 1. And then I'm going to Running of the Bulls. Which, what time do we need to be there, Fredo? To get our packets and stuff?
Well, usually, it's they'll be open there from like 6:30 in the morning at Gallier Hall, because the running itself kicks off at 8:30.
8, okay.
You should start the invocation by 8 and then off you go.
So I need to be down there about, 7-ish. And then I'm going to go try to find some sleep. And then I play another gig from 5 to 8:30 Saturday night. So unless one of your kids is in prison, you need to be there. So just saying. Which I guess is possible. One of your kids could be in prison.
Never can tell.
But anyway, sorry, go ahead, Dave.
I'm taking this mindfulness course right now, right? Which involves a lot of meditation and reframing. So I'll try not to look at this as an obligation. So we'll see.
I'd rather as an opportunity.
Well, you might be lucky. You might see the three of us in live and in person. But to explain to those of you who might not be from New Orleans, yes, we have Running of the Bulls, and I think this is one of the most genius things ever. This was formulated by two guys sitting at a bar about 5 beers in, because what it is, everybody still dresses in white and red. And like Fredo said, they bring out the statue of San Fermin, and we do a prayer, and then they you start the run. They unleash the bulls. Well, the bulls in New Orleans are roller derby girls from multiple states with wiffle ball bats, and so. It was funny because I actually said to one of our friends, last week, I said, you need to do Running of the Bulls. And he's like, I don't want to run. And I'm like, you don't run. You just walk. People are walking and they're drinking sangria and wine and whatever else they want. And, just having a grand old time. The only time you run is when you hear whop from behind and ow. And then, then people start running because some of those roller derby girls swing for the bleachers. So, it's just, that two guys were sitting there and there's probably a commercial for the actual Running of the Bulls. Like, we should do that. What are we going to do for bulls? Roller derby girls. Yes. Perfect. That was the conversation. So, but like I said, it's so much fun. My first time I did that when we came down here, I remember some old guy who was probably as old as my dad. He was in his 70s. And he was grinning from ear to ear and just having a blast. And was it last year with or 2 years ago, the little lady with the walker, Fredo, that had you take her picture as she was going across the finish line?
She was there with her assistant or the person minding her, little old, 80-something, 90-something. Tiniest little thing, just her on her walker. And what I love is all the roller derby girls were coming up and giving her little love taps in the back and just encouraging her. And then once she crossed the finish line, she said, would you mind taking my photo? I'm like, absolutely. And I'm taking all the photos that she wants of her, finish line in front of Gallery Hall. It's the kind of thing, you know, I tell people all the time, one of the things I love about New Orleans is the fact that we force you to pause. Like you can live in most major American metropolitan cities and a million things can be happening and you never feel like your sense of time slows down. It just feels like you go, go, go. New Orleans demands you stop and have a moment, stop and look around and enjoy yourself. And this is kind of one of those things where you just, I mean, it is literally going to be 90 some odd degrees. By 8 o'clock, everybody's sweaty. You pay in order just to get inside and get into the AC. I'm making sangria, by the way. I promised white wine sangria. I'm making sangria and I'm bringing sangria. And you just get out there and do this silly thing, and then by 12:30 tomorrow, every one of us will be back inside our homes, showering and trying to, relax, from how much we sweated and drank. Which
No,
again,
I
it's the
guarantee
fun of
you.
it.
I guarantee you when I go to my gig that I play it from 5 to 8:30, I'll still see people walking around the French Quarter
Mhm.
in their white and red.
Whites. Hmm.
Um, so you said getting love taps from behind. I do want to make a little PSA here. I got my colonoscopy on Monday this week, and this is a serious moment because it was interesting. It's when you realize that your phone is listening to you or something. Because somebody I saw post on Threads that they were afraid of getting their colonoscopy, so they canceled it. And I just want to take this PSA first of all to say there's nothing to be afraid of. The worst part is the prep, and even that's not all that bad. And it's just please take advantage of those things to make sure that cancer doesn't sneak up on you. I mean, I know there's people get ooged out about how it's done, but I tell you what, you don't even know. They give you the good Michael Jackson stuff, and then you wake up, and that's it. So, like I said, that's my PSA. So, that's kind of funny. So,
Yeah, no, it's important. It's important, particularly one of the things is like it used to be the demarcation line used to be 50 and above before you started getting it. Now they've lowered it
yeah.
because the unfortunate reality is a lot of the early markers, whatever, are indicating that it's becoming more prevalent in people 450. So,
Even more so, a lot of
mhm,
younger kids are getting it. So yeah. So anyway, like I said, just
mhm,
take care of yourself. Make
mhm.
sure that you are, it's like they say in all these things, early detection. So yeah.
You're here.
So sorry to get serious. You didn't come to listen to a podcast about colonoscopy, but I could read you the results and everything. But so uh,
No,
um,
thank you. No,
If this
thank
was
you.
if this was a video podcast, you could show us the pictures
I
from
I
your last vacation.
I will say that because this is my second one, and the first one I made comment. I said this is when I really missed. It was like about a year after my dad died, and I said this was when I really missed my dad because he and I we watched Beavis and Butthead together. We had that irreverent sense of humor. I know it would have there would have been jokes going on the whole time. Yeah. So yeah, but anyway, so I digress. So we are tonight in the spirit of the World Cup. We're not really going to talk anything about Star Wars tonight. We're going to do some Star Wars trivia just to keep the shtick going. But we're to keep in the spirit of the World Cup, um, and we're going to do our list of guilty pleasure sports movies. So, and I detected a common thread in mine, which was, I don't know, interesting, concerning, or what, but um, we'll see if that common thread comes through. Um,
I
but
have, I have two. I have two common threads.
interesting,
Yeah.
interesting. Um, but I will say I have not really been watching the World Cup because I have nothing against soccer. It's just not my cup of tea, So as I'm drinking my cup of tea, um, but the thing that has been so enjoyable is watching soccer fans and watching the joy that people have had discovering, especially this country at this moment of time, and discovering ranch dressing but then seeing just like the Norway, the rowing thing, the Scots, drinking Boston out of beer. But, and just like I said, I think the fans have brought a level of joy that we needed at this moment in time. So thank you, soccer fans.
Yeah, one of the things that's interesting, and I was listening to one of the soccer podcasts I listened to, and it's kind of said that the World Cup splits in two halves. You have the group phase when all the teams are playing one another, and then the knockout phase, which is where we're at right now, when you get to, okay, you lose and you're out kind of a thing. And that first half is all the party. That's when you get the Cape Verde fans dancing, Chinese fans were dancing. That's when you get the Mexico fans who decide to make a giant bridge out of all the beer cups that they consumed. And then what do they do? They start tossing people over it like it's a some sort of conga line. Then you know rowing station. You get people just partying, and it just becomes this wonderful excuse to kind of just get together, be around, just sharing this fun. And win, lose, or draw, whatever happens, everybody just has a good time. Whereas now when you get to knockout stages, now when it gets serious, and you're like, oh, we're only like 4 games from a title or 2 games from the World Cup title, and that's when everybody begins to panic. Everybody begins to get the sweats. Everybody begins to get short. Like today, France beat Morocco. And it was funny, it's in the middle of the broadcast, Telemundo's telling me, oh yeah, there was a fight between, and you laugh at this, Dave, there was a fight in the press box between a French reporter and a Moroccan reporter. No reason as to what it's given France a penalty that they didn't score, but looked to be dubious. But so all of a sudden you had these two reporters fighting in the press box. I'm like, I don't think that's really good etiquette in the press box for people who are supposed to be there working to, in the words of Telemundo, be kicking the heck out of each other. But that's what they were doing. So it's a fun time. I always love World Cup time because it's like a good excuse to just think about nothing else. The rest of the world kind of disappears. Just you focus on this.
You called to mind a fun sports reporter anecdote for you. Again, you're exactly right. You're not supposed to do that in the press box. There's decorum. There are rules that are to be followed. One of my favorites in a baseball press box is you do not speak aloud of an ongoing no-hitter. Well, for my online job with FLM, it generates more work for us when there's a no-hitter in Major League Baseball. So the opposite rule is the case. You have to jinx a no-hitter when you see one happening. So, yeah, that's just a fun little quirk there. I thought I would share.
That's funny. Yeah, like I said, it's just been a joy to watch the fans. I've also been watching a lot of reels and clips of some very professional, some very big names, and I'm realizing there are a couple big jerks out there. So we'll just leave it at that. I don't want to. We'll talk about that offline. But so guilty pleasure sports movies tonight. And don't forget Running of the Bulls on Saturday. So let's do some Star Wars trivia. Dun, 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 dun. By the way, guys, I know this is not a video podcast, but do you notice a different perspective? Yeah, I moved my desk around, so yeah. So now
it's funny that you speak of this because I'm noticing the Return of the Jedi poster on the wall behind you.
Yeah.
And I learned this week, and I don't know if this is true, but those are apparently George Lucas's hands.
I've heard as well. I've heard that as well.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So
holding the lightsaber aloft.
Who knows? Might be. All right. Well, let's see here. Trivia time. And I don't have there are my glasses. Thank God. All right, Fredo, you're going to start things off here. Who describes R2-D2 as, quote, an extremely well put together little droid? Who describes R2-D2 as, quote, an extremely well put together little droid?
I'm going to tell you, I think we've gotten this question about 50 times now.
And I still can't remember the answer. It's extremely well put together little droid. shoot, this feels like a prequel sentence. Uh, I'm going to say Padme. Probably wrong.
It is Captain Panaka. And I
Hmm.
think
When he's right before Padme
I
in
was
that scene in
totally
Phantom Menace.
I was totally expecting you to say Captain Tanaka.
Instead of Panaka.
Yeah, that's what
Yes.
I was expecting because that's. I mean, yes, I think we've had that question a couple times. All right,
We all need like homework, right? Where we can get Panaka, Tanaka, Tarful,
Tarples
and Tarples. Yeah,
and
get all these
Tarful.
guys
Yeah.
straight. Yeah.
Hmm.
All right, Dave, to you. Who tells Anakin Skywalker that he has, quote, brought hope to those who have none? Who tells Anakin Skywalker that he has, quote, brought hope to those who have none?
I think this is Shmi.
It is Shmi
There we
Skywalker.
go.
Very good. And to me, what planet was depicted in scenes shot on location in Naples, famed Caserta Royal Palace? What planet was depicted in scenes shot on location in Naples, famed Caserta Royal Palace? That would be Naboo. That was the correct answer. It said Naboo, but more
It is.
technically correct is Theed City. I'll push my glasses up for that one.
And people travel to that place just to replicate that famous scene about sand. They go to the balcony and they get there and they go, I hate sand, and so forth.
All right. Do we have any news tonight?
Yeah, we got a few bits of news. So let's start right quick. So yesterday they announced the 2026 Primetime Emmy nominations, and there were a couple of Star Wars nominees. So congratulations, first of all, to Star Wars Maul Shadow Lord, which was nominated for Outstanding Sound Editing for a comedy or drama series, half hour, and animation. For Chapter 10, The Dark Lord, which I'm wondering if they just nominated because of the way Maul killed Vanessa Marshall. Or, sorry, Vader killed Vanessa Marshall, off screen. Because that was, to be fair, that whole series and the whole episode's about Vader chasing them. So, and then the other episode that got nominated was Star Wars Visions episode Black, the really trippy one, the one that looks like it's out of 1960s Disney's horror animation style, which was nominated for Outstanding Animated Program.
Right
So
on.
yeah, so yeah, two nominations for Primetime Emmys, which
Well,
I'm sure.
well deserved. But I was going to say, it feels like there are a lot of Emmy nominations this year, or at least I'm watching shows that are getting nominated. It's probably the
Well,
latter.
I mean, the top nominee for this year was the Pit season 2.
Mhm.
I think
Sweet.
that's some like 14 or 16 nominations between front of camera, cast members, production, design, the whole nine.
Kind of like Dave when you get a new car and you then see the same model of car all over the place.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think so. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm. So yeah, Primetime Emmys will take place on Monday, September 14, because it's on NBC, and that Sunday night, NBC's got an NFL game, and Lord Football trumps all, or conquers all. Let's put it that way. Uh, so with that, let's move right quick. Speaking of visions, we got a announcement and a trailer this week for The Ninth Jedi. Uh, they will have an Anime Expo 2026, and The Ninth Jedi, which was, remember, debuted as part of Star Wars Visions Volume 1, and then we got a second episode or chapter in Volume 2. I'm sorry, in Volume 3. Well, it's going to get its own limited series. They're calling for right now limited series. It's going to be 8 episodes. All episodes will drop August 5th. It's interesting that they're putting them all at the same time. If you forget, it's the Vision shorts kind of follow this one character called La Cara. It's a little girl who's in the distant future. The Jedi and Sith are gone, and all of a sudden, they're trying to figure out where the Jedi went and what's happened to them. And it's going to be interesting to see how it goes from a limited kind of vignette or short story thing to a more extended run. But maybe if it goes well, we'll get more Star Wars anime. So yeah, that's coming out August 5th. And like I said, they got a poster and a trailer if you want to see it.
We talked about how Visions was kind of like a proving ground for a lot of these animators and these storytellers, and so it's really cool to see someone leverage that into a bigger project. I think it's really, really cool. I don't have a strong opinion on this particular micro story versus the other micro stories that we've seen in Visions, but I mean, obviously somebody at Lucasfilm was impressed, and I think it's great that these folks are getting rewarded in this way.
Of the podcasts I listened to, it seems to me that the Ninth Jedi was kind of at the top. It was like the ones that people dug the most. So yeah, so we'll see.
They dug it. They dug it well enough to go back and ask for a second chapter or a second vignette for Volume 3, and that tells you that there was something about the character that connected, or the characters that connected with people. And you're right. All we can do is hope for the best, and it'll be interesting to see something that's Star Wars animated that's not necessarily following in the same vein as Clone Wars, Rebels, Shadow Lord, Maul Shadow Lord. It's a Bad Batch, so it's a different flavor. Uh, Other bit of news, right quick. It was announced this week that Star Wars the Experience, so the name is Star Wars the Experience, which is a museum exhibition, was announced for next year. It will have its world premiere at the Franklin Institute in Philadelphia in 2027. So it's what it is. It's a journey celebrating Star Wars, and it will, they're going to have some elements of it at Celebration, clearly, but it's going to open up in Philly, and then allegedly it's supposed to be a touring kind of exhibit showing more than 70 artifacts, many of them on view for the first time from Lucasfilm, including screen use pieces like Darth Maul's lightsaber hilt, Vader's armor, aliens, droids, creatures, Grogu, R2 and C3PO. So apparently they're going to include everything. A full-size speeder bike, no, you can't get on it, and even more stuff. So it's apparently created by the Franklin Institute in collaboration with Lucasfilm, Disney, MDSX. It's going to be 18,000 square feet of galleries, immersive moments, screeners, artifacts, and more.
Sounds similar.
Where is it going? Yeah.
Well, it sounds similar to. I have to go. I have the poster over here, but it was Magic of Myth that they had at the Smithsonian. I went. We were actually out visiting my brother in DC and went to that exhibit and got to see all of it. And then it did travel around a little bit, I believe, after that. So cool. Hopefully it will get somewhere near.
It's so just real quick, it's going to go from February 13th through September 6th in Philly. After Philly, it will launch a 5-year North American tour. So hopefully it'll come somewhere relatively close so we can go swing by and visit, or maybe if you're traveling, visiting family, it'll be like, hey, it's down the street kind of a thing.
It's always, I will say, it's very cool to see those. Like, it was the same thing with Magic of Myth. I mean, it was, screen use props and everything like that, but then you sit there and wonder, is it really the real thing? How do I know? It's like the skeptic in you. But no, it is very, very cool to see that. And I wish, of course, I guess I wouldn't be surprised if it becomes like a kind of a rotating exhibit at the new Lucas museum in LA, but
which they keep announcing, that they keep promoting that and pushing that coming this fall. That's also going to be massive. That'll be interesting, because I mean that's different from the Star Wars that is George Lucas working with designing all that. So it'll be interesting to see how that comes out.
Hey, I want to jump in here a little bit on the news bit. I haven't had a chance to ask you guys this yet, and so on the podcast is the best part. We don't have to spend a lot of time on this. But, one of the things we always talk about is having to do the homework, before you go see a movie. have we talked about it on the podcast about the fact that they're adding scenes to Endgame that help
I think
explain
we did.
Doomsday?
Yeah.
Did we? Okay,
We mentioned
I guess I know maybe we talked in person. I don't know if we talked about it on the podcast. I'm still obviously upset about that. It's like
you want to be really upset. I saw some post today that intimated that the runtime for Doomsday is something in the neighborhood of 3 hours and 40 minutes,
Oh
which
no, no,
that can
no, no, no.
that is literally that is the Homer Simpson getting tortured with donuts in hell.
well, I'll be
I
going to the
mean,
bathroom about 3 times. Um, but no, I mean, my thing, they, this seems like a cash grab, and it also it's like if it's that dang important, then just do a flashback scene at the beginning of your movie. I'm sorry, this is sounding familiar, so I'll get off of it now, but that's really bothering me. Um, so anyway,
but we'll use that as a springboard because Dave finally got to see Supergirl, so I wanted to non-spoilery pick his brain and ask what he thought of it.
I liked it. It deserves a better fate than it is currently receiving.
Yeah, yeah. So I went and saw it the first week it came out. I enjoyed it a great deal. I had fun. The characters are great. Now, I'm biased because I read Woman of Tomorrow, which I think I mentioned last time, and it's a fun read. And it's here's the thing though, it's completely different characters. Without spoiling anything, the Supergirl in the comic short story or in the comic novel is established. Here she isn't. But just kind of to put it into a perspective what's happening on the box office. So just this past weekend, Supergirl fell. It's number four, made only $8.5 million. It's only made so far across its 4 weekends, 4 weeks out, just over $57 million. To put that in comparison, and I'm gonna, just kind of bear with me a moment. The Mandalorian and Grogu, which has been out since, hold on a sec, has been out for 10 weeks, is still making about $500,000. It's cleared current box office in the U.S. 170, just under 107 over. I'm sorry, 176. When you think about it, like that doesn't sound like a lot, but reality in terms of total gross across the entire year. Guess what the number one movie so far in the U.S. has been this year?
I'm still I want to say Devil Wears Prada too.
I'm guessing the Mario movie.
Devil Wears Prada 2 is number four. The Mario movie is, I don't see it.
Mario
Uh,
Galaxy? It's not on
yeah,
there?
yeah, Mario Galaxy. It should be in here, but they might pulled it up right now. But anyway, right now, total gross, the number one movie is Michael, the Michael Jackson biopic, which has
So
made $371 million.
I think
Number two, Toy Story.
I think it seems to me that people are trying the old ways, and the old ways aren't working because Mandalorian and Grogu and Supergirl were marketed like crazy.
Actually,
It's
let me
like
correct
I mean the Milk-Bone commercials, alone, and I mean you were seeing Supergirl, trailers and everything for a long time, and Mandalorian Grogu was on Burger King and everything else, and it was like they were trying this traditional marketing, and it's not pulling the people in.
let me just correct myself. Right now, you're right, Dave. The number one movie is the Super Mario Galaxy movie with let's say 430 million. 430 million, which sounds like a lot, but then you start thinking about all the money spent in advertising, kind of like Aaron was saying, for the number one movie in America for in 2026 so far. Now, obviously, Toy Story just came out, and that's going right up there. Next week you get The Odyssey. That's already going to be a big box office hit. Spider-Man's coming out a few weeks after that. So some of these numbers are coming out. But what's interesting is you're right. There isn't a lot of. I mean, just to juxtapose this, a movie that should have no issue making money, Disclosure Day, which is Steven Spielberg's latest. He's going back to the Alien ET. Well, guess how much money had that movie has made after being out for like 5 weeks?
Uh,
Maybe 100 million.
$107.5 million, which you're like Steven Spielberg on IMAX, Alien movie, all this other stuff. It is not, I mean, again, it's lagging behind Scream 7, and it's lagging behind Backrooms and Obsession, which is kind of right now the biggest hit. Right now, currently, The Mandalorian and Grogu is sitting like the eighth highest grossing movie in the country of
so,
all of the year.
so Dave,
So
talk.
I know. Mhm.
I was just gonna say, Dave, talk about the the fate that Supergirl is getting right now, and what you meant by that.
Well, I think it's been tanked by incels and unhappy male people.
Shocker.
Yeah, that can't account for all of it, right? You think like a lot of people are not going to be swayed by those opinions. You think about, I don't know, all the people that went to see Wonder Woman or Black Panther. You know, there's more at play, right? I don't want to give these people too much power, but I also think like
Real quick, while you take a
it's
pause
not
there,
great.
real quick,
Mhm.
you know, because she was introduced in the Superman movie, but it
Hmm.
was
Mhm.
for a very if they would have had a little bit more of her in that movie, do you think that would have helped?
I don't know. You know what? I think what I always come back to with a lot of these like um, part of a bigger universe stories
Mhm.
is I think audiences are adept enough to see, is this an important piece of that narrative? I think at this point they've seen enough of these movies to know like, well, they're all kind of the same. They're actiony. They get your heart pumping. Uh, you get thrilled. There's excitement. There's bad guys, and you beat the bad guys, and the good guy wins at the end. And so it becomes repetitive. And so people are beginning to sort of pick and choose a little bit. And I think like people are discerning enough to look at us one of these stories, read a review, and kind of begin to figure out for themselves like, hey, I don't know if this is an important piece, for lack of a better term, in the overarching narrative. Like that Avengers movie at the end of the year is going to do a lot of bank. It may not be in the same universe as previous Avengers movies because, as we're seeing, as Fredo pointed out, a lot of movies are down right now. But um, that one's going to be more immune than something like Supergirl. And again, that's that kind of story, that crossover event is also not going to be, it's not going to, people aren't going to focus their hatred on it either, which I think like this movie got that. And like, if you have a very small mind, no offense to the small minded people out there who might be listening right now, if you have a very small mind and you see this movie and you see that there's a gang of men and their whole thing is they only bring women into their society to breed with them. That's how they treat women. That's all they do. And that's the way that they behave. If you're small-minded enough, you're going to extrapolate that depiction of men as being some feminist viewpoint of all men, and you're going to take it personally. And I'm sorry, man. Like, there were a lot of cool male figures in this movie that were not like that. But, you know, the narrative is it's like, oh, the woman is not hot enough. She's not eye candy for me. And men are depicted poorly. And that's it, man. That's all they need to be off and running and get their little campaign going of saying like you should boycott this movie. And again, not to give them more credit than they deserve in this, because again, I think there's way more at play with superhero fatigue, uh, box office returns being low in general, et cetera, et cetera. But yeah, I think the movie deserved better
Well,
than this.
and so we've seen that story played out numerous times, and like I said, so I still wonder. You're always going to have it. Unfortunately, you're always going to have it until those small-minded people leave the planet. But I still wonder. Like I said, they brought her in for that small clip at the end, and I think about Civil War when T'Challa was a small portion of that storyline, but you got to know the character a little bit. You got to empathize with him a little bit. And then when it's like, oh, there's a Black Panther movie, I want to go see Black Panther movie because I dug that character. And when you only get the one small little bit, that's why I wonder if sometimes do the post-credit scenes really help get people, excited for the next movie coming, or the little thing there. So, because we didn't get much to her character in Superman.
And really, I mean, that's not. I mean, Superman's story was about Superman. The whole cameo kind of explains a few things more about Crypto than it does her. I will say, just to add to Dave's point about that group of people, one of the difficulties that you're seeing is, well, particularly that this movie particularly is having, it is still having to contend with the fallout from the collapse of the DCEU, meaning the quote unquote Snyderverse, meaning all the fans who latched on to Henry Cavill, Batman v Superman, that version of Justice League, that shared universe that they were building, that because it wasn't financially viable in whatever way Warner Bros. Needed to be, they just pulled the plug on the whole sucker. And they're still, it's almost like, it's funny when I talk about sports, it's almost like they got on a jersey for that universe. And they latched onto that. So weirdly enough, they're taking it out on the next iteration.
Maybe
it's almost like Star Wars fans in some way upset that the sequels are not the prequels, and you're like, wait a minute, it's the same thing, but to them it isn't.
Maybe,
so
but I'm gonna speak. First of all, I'm not one of the small-minded people, so I'm not threatened by, like, I'm not in the camp that Dave was talking about there. I'm also not what you were talking about there, Fredo's.
No.
But what I'm saying is that my first apprehension was I don't want to go see this movie right away because we just lost our dog that looked a lot like Crypto, and if anything happens to the dog, I said I would. But even so, I'm not rearranging my schedule. Britt and I, we want to see the movie at some point, but it's not enough to pull us into the theater right now. Mm-hmm. And I don't know what the answer to that is. I know it's not what Dave was talking about. I know it's not what you were talking about. It's, maybe it is a little bit what Dave was saying of the superhero fatigue. Maybe it's just like, but I don't know. There was nothing, compelling me to, but I mean,
but what I'm trying to say is, movies are expensive, and it takes a lot to make it out there. Like, it's not just.
Hold on, because you're talking dual income, no kids. I mean, it's like going to see a movie is not like I have to put my pennies away. And this sounds really, but it's. I'm sorry, you're gonna have to edit that out, Dave. But that what I'm saying is that I think the movie industry as a whole, there has to be something compelling to get people. And maybe it's the fact that I know that this is going to be on HBO Max or something in mere months.
It's not even that though, because like my time I value more than my money at this stage of things. It's like my kids will talk to me about wanting to watch something with them that looks insipid, right? And I'm like, I have no interest in this. I don't want to spend, a second of my time on this thing. And they say, oh, it's just your time. It's free to watch. It's on cable or whatever. It's on this service, this streaming service that we have. We can watch it. It's free. And I'm like, free doesn't move the needle for me in the way that you saying I have to give them, 2 hours to this thing. You're talking Avengers 3 hours and 40 minutes. I mean, like, whoa, like that that gives me
That
pause.
almost makes me want to just wait until it's out on Disney Plus and I can watch it over 3 days.
I kind of feel like I can wait an extra few months, right? Even though it's like a quote unquote big piece of the story. Um, I'm like, I can try to avoid spoilers for a few months if it's going to be a 4 hour movie. Um, but like you also touched on that I thought was interesting too, which is like the marketing part piece of this. Like, if they had spent like not a dollar, the and relating this back to Mandalorian and Grogu, right? Because I wanted to talk about Supergirl tonight because like it does put that movie in perspective. Like Mando and Grogu did not like ah, tank in the same way. It's not the same kind of disaster financially speaking. Um, but I am curious, like if they had not spent as much money on marketing, it might be a profitable movie right now, or much closer to it, because it was that marketing budget that like soared, and like you said, those commercials were everywhere, and it's like, did it move the needle for anyone? Did it get people to go? And I don't know the actual answer to that.
Yeah, and I don't know what the answer is to mine as well as like what compels me to like I want to go see this in the theater. And I mean when I say this, I mean insert movie here.
Right.
Or,
And I think
and I mean obviously if it's Star Wars, I'm going. That's just kind of a done deal. But other things, it's like, I mean, obviously it was like as a kid, I was like, Batman's coming out. We're going to go see Batman. The new Indiana Jones is coming. We're going to see Indiana, or just, whatever movie that's like. But again, back then we didn't have the, you know, avenues and, like I said, just even going to Blockbuster and renting a movie was a pain in the butt because it's like, what do you want to watch? And then you get into a argument. The worst fights my wife and I have ever been in is in Blockbuster. Trying to arguing over a movie. Um, but now it's just like you can just open up an app and find something, and it's like effortless. And so, what compels me to go? I really want to see this in the theater. And honestly, like when we went and saw Mando and Grogu, I the theater did nothing for me. They're not. It's not. It used to feel like you were going into a palace almost. You know, like being in the theater itself was an event, and now it's just kind of dank and kind of cruddy, and I don't know. It's not like we went to the worst theater in the world, but it's not. I don't know.
it's not an experience anymore. It's just something else, which that may speak in part to what you just said, may speak in part to that, I don't want to call it malaise, but that new reality. You have more accessible entertainment in your fingertips than ever before. I mean, it used to be if you wanted to see a Star Wars movie, you had to wait for one of those suckers to end up back on the big screen. Well, now two presses of your button on your phone or your iPad, boom, it's playing in front of you. So it makes the two things happen. One, makes the expectation of going to a movie theater that much higher because I'm making an effort to go to a movie theater, but also it makes that threshold of, well, why am I going here that much higher? It's like it can't just simply be, well, I'm going to go see a movie. Like in years past, that's where the financial dynamic also comes into play. It's like, well, I got to drive out there, I got to spend this much money, I got to go through this rigmarole. There might be people talking in the theater, this, that, the other, and you just go, or I can sit at home and fire up my tablet, put it on my screen, and watch whatever I want, and not be bothered by any of this. So it does create an interesting juxtaposition where the more it's available to you, the more you kind of hold the movie going to a higher standard. And unfortunately, I don't necessarily know that coming out of the pandemic, they've really done enough to justify for people at the prices they're requesting. I mean, going to see Supergirl was a $50 experience once you factor in prices, snacks, the whole nine. It's not a cheap, and again, I'm single, no kids, so I got disposable income. So
I also wonder, you talk about, the incels who are running it down online and everything like that. Um, it would be nice if social media could filter out bots, because I
Mhm.
had a post on Threads, and somebody like took me to town and I was like tapped into mine was a tongue in cheek, jokey type of thing, and somebody took me to town and tapped into their profile and saw that they had um, 3 followers and like no original posts of their own. I'm like, okay, you know, Timothy whatever 101 is obviously a bot. So I was like, I'm not worrying about this. Not going to get into an argument. So, it has to be. I was watching the director and the Jedi, the Last Jedi documentary, and Ryan Johnson made mention. He said they got um, like a bunch of tweets, all from Russian accounts, saying "Don't kill off General Hux." But it's there's that organized effort. I mean, you want to make people know that people like us are going to get mad on the internet, and it's going to sow discourse if they say, "Oh, Supergirl's not hot enough." All it just has to be a bot to say, let's make the Americans ticked off. I mean, that's something to take into consideration. We don't know. Is it some
all the
actual?
monkeys from Superman.
I mean, anyway.
Yeah,
Yeah, all the monkeys.
I've probably given that too much oxygen as it is.
But it needs to have the oxygen, because there are
Yeah.
actual people who say those actual things.
There
So
are
yes,
some of the 1 out of every 1,000 of these characters is actual human being that lives and breathes
100%,
and
maybe more.
can be persuaded. But so if you're out there, I apologize for calling you small-minded.
Don't.
If you
I don't. I don't apologize.
I just
Dave's
I
nicer
want
than
you
me.
to consider a better way. A better way. You don't have to take everything personally if it's not aimed at you. I promise you. I promise you. Like, unless you're out there raping women, and we'll not go any further with that. But as long as you're not doing that, that's not aimed at you.
Yeah.
So, like, that's another thing with all of this discussion.
Let's jump to our let's just jump. We're an hour in. We should probably get to our fun conversation of our guilty pleasure sports movies. But I will, Fredo, if you want one last word on it, you had something to say.
Yeah, I'll just mention right quick that you're already seeing as the box office sales coming in from Endo and Grogu, the conversation shift to Starfighter next year. Now, that's really going to be the measuring stick. We can't really use Mando and Grogu. And sometimes we need to almost kind of like take a step back from the roller coaster and go like, you can't just simply, it almost feels like movies now are more hype machines than art form. Like it's more like, well, no, don't worry about this. The next one's going to answer all your questions. If you didn't enjoy this one, it's the next one that's going to solve your issues. And sometimes, like, you got to remind the teams of marketing executives and movie studio moguls and all of that stuff. When you go to see a movie, you're going to see a movie. Yes, the MCU was brilliant in connecting all these movies together, but the MCU is not born because everybody was waiting for Thanos to show up. The MCU became what it became because Iron Man was good, Captain America was good, and the first Avengers was good, and Guardians of the Galaxy was good. So you started stringing good movie after good movie that connected with its audience. Nothing else came after that was any good. At least you had that one good movie. So focus more on making sure you're giving the audience something to like and appreciate and enjoy, because that's what's going to get them back into the movie theater more than the promise of what comes down the line.
I think the movie needs to be good. Like that, like, bottom line, right? Like, the best movie going experience I had this year was Project Hail Mary. And I'm not saying that was the best movie I saw, but it was the best big screen experience. Like they filmed it and designed that movie in such a way for a person to experience it on the big screen, and it was phenomenal in that setting because of that. And I don't know if movie makers are losing some of that technical skill, and that might be another discussion for another day. But yeah, we give us good movies.
Yeah.
Please.
I think we're also looking for original movies as well.
Mhm.
All right. Guilty pleasure sports movies. Folks, these don't have to be good movies. These are movies that is just like, again, if I'm flipping and it's on TNT, then I'm probably in for the long haul and I'm going to watch it no matter where it is, in the middle, at the beginning, towards the end, whatever. So what do we say? Our top 4, and then we'll have some. I'm sure we'll have a bunch of honorable mentions. I'm going to start off because I always do, and right at the top of my list is The Replacements. I've talked about that on this podcast before. It's a horrible movie that is just awesome, and it's about football. It's about scab football, and it's got so many plot holes and whatever is going on. But it's just fun. It's just a fun sports movie. So I don't know what else to say about it, but
Sometimes just having certain actors attached to a project makes it more enjoyable, right? And Gene Hackman chewing scenery is just fun,
Yeah.
Jon Favreau is fun to watch on screen.
I got you the ball. I got
Yeah.
you the ball.
I got you the ball.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there are a lot of really fun actors.
It was
movie.
cast really well. It was
Yeah.
just cast really well. Yeah. So that's
And you'll always remember the line, paint heals, chicks hit scars, glory lasts forever. Delivered by Mr. Keanu Reeves.
yeah, but that's the thing is that it's also very misogynistic. I mean, it's
Big time.
Yeah.
Big time.
Guilty pleasure.
It's why girls don't play the game. It's like, oh man, why'd you have to say that? But anyway, however, it's just right at the top. Well, when Britt was asking, "What are you guys talking about tonight?" I was like, "Guilty pleasure sports movies." She's like, "Okay, Replacements." I was like, "Yeah." So, Dave, to you, what's your first one?
I'm going to go like descending order here, kind of. I want to make sure that this one gets included, so this is my number 1 choice. Rudy. All-time guilty pleasure because it's not at all historically accurate. The real guy, kind of a dodgy individual by many accounts. He was offsides. I mean, yeah, go down the list, right? But incredible movie making, like with the score and the way that it, again, the acting performances and the drama of it, which again, some of it's made up, but the way that everything unfolds on screen, it's like art and poetry, and it sort of lifts football into this other level of beauty, and in a way that most other football movies don't. I don't know what it is about why that seems so hard for so many football movies to pull out. Football movies are just, we can list nothing but football movies here. Yeah, that one is just so enjoyable, and I feel guilty every time I sit down and I watch that thing, because I'm like, not a great guy. I don't like Notre Dame. It's all none of this is true. But so what? So what? It's fun.
Yeah, it's one of those that, weirdly enough, I think, because did it come out when you were in high school, Dave?
Right around.
It's one of those. It did for me, and I just remember
early 90s.
Yeah, I just remember our football coaches in high school, just dragging the entire football team to go see it because they were so in love with it. And obviously, they printed the legend. They did not stick to the facts. For my first movie, okay, I'm gonna go back to college days, and this one, you're talking about a movie that's misogynistic and offensive, and Jesus, can't, geez, Louise, you can't do this. Basketball. If you've never seen it, it's Trey Parker and Matt Stone, the creators of South Park. They decide to put themselves in one movie where they invent a sport that combines basketball and baseball in a way to make fun of every organized American sports league. I mean, they take down the NFL, the NBA, but it's got so many non sequiturs. It is ridiculous. It is highly offensive. It's the kind of stuff you wouldn't make today, not because you couldn't make it, but it's because it's so sophomoric and idiotic and dumb. That's part of why I love. I remember just watching in colleges. We used to bust out laughing. I mean, out of nowhere, you get Robert Stack showing up, doing a whole unsolved mysteries bit, and that, I mean, it is eminently quotable. But I can't quote it here because then Dave will McClunky the heck out of me for the next 2 minutes. So I'm not gonna. But it's one of those movies that it reminds me of college, reminds me of being late teens, early 20s, just the dumbest, most again. It's sophomoric, it's misogynistic, it's not kind in any kind of way, but it's fun. It's dumb, and so it's a guilty pleasure for me.
I think I've watched it once, yeah, and yeah, it was one of those things where I remember thinking that they should just stick to South Park, but you know, seeing it in college though, that has to. I mean,
Wheelhouse.
yeah. Well, my next one, we're not at. I'm just this is at one towards the top of my list. If it's ever on, I watch it. Dodgeball. Dodgeball is just it's Ben Stiller at his best. I mean, good lord, that and usually and Vince Vaughn wears on me, and but he's tolerable in this movie. But again, the supporting cast around him is great. Some of the gags that it's just. But again, it's Jason Bateman is should have got an Oscar. But it's I just love Dodgeball.
This Jason Bateman and Gary Cole together as the announcers is like its own little thing that just okay. First of all, it is forever quotable, forever memeable, but it's perfect. Which it says nothing about what's his name, Patches, the actor who plays Patches O'Houlihan, uh, who again we cannot quote here for the sake of Dave and the McClunky button.
Yeah. But like I said, it's just you know, kind of. I mean, Beer Fest is not a sports movie, but I mean, those two movies are kind of on par with one another. Just
And see, this is where I would say with both of those movies, they're both art. I have no guilt whatsoever watching either of them, and I will watch them in front of anyone, and I will not apologize. I'm like, you're watching this with me because these movies are incredible. For and I didn't include Shaolin Soccer because I showed that to my kids recently, and they loved it. But again, like I'm like, nope, man, this is just an awesome movie. No guilt here. I guess my next choice, I'm gonna go over the top.
is that the Sylvester Stallone arm wrestling movie?
The arm wrestling Sylvester Stallone movie, which is just
That's when I never realized A, that there was professional arm wrestling, and B, that you held on to a handle, because every time you arm wrestled somebody, it's like you couldn't hold on to anything. So yeah.
Fredo. It's like a switch. It's like
That's
a
right.
switch.
That's right. It is like a switch. Oh my gosh. I
I
saw it
mean,
as a kid.
yeah, we saw it as kids on like on cable television, and you're just like, "Dude, what is this?" Because like none of us were watching that movie in the theaters. A movie about a freaking arm wrestling championship, like no. Um, but oh, it's so funny and quotable, uh and just, I mean, it ain't great. It ain't great, but if you go in expecting it to be cheesy and ridiculous, you're gonna have a good time.
Yeah, it's just it's one of those like okay, you could only have done that movie in the '80s because it is it is Velveeta cheese. It is not even the good quality cheese. It is Velveeta cheese. For my next one, I'm probably gonna steal out of this one on somebody's list. If not, I'm disappointed. Talladega Nights, The Legend of Ricky Bobby,
Oh, I didn't have that one.
which
No. I've never seen that
also,
actually.
well, it is one of Christopher Nolan's favorite movies to just catch on cable. He says he loves If You're Not First, You're Last. Again, it's the same team that made Anchorman who would go and make other movies. Uh, Will Ferrell just channeling his inner Southern, over the top goofball redneck, and him and John C. Riley are just hilarious. The two of them just play off so well of one another. And then you got this whole cast of characters that just follows them, just living the NASCAR life. And then, you get Amy Adams dancing on top of a table at an Applebee's, which is, you're like, what? What's going on here? But there's so many quotes in this movie. There's a movie like, the brothers would just randomly throw a line out of there and you spiral out of that. But it's hilarious. It's silly. In some ways, it's absurd, but it's a blast. You cannot hate it. And no, yeah, is it highbrow cinema? No, it is not. But it's fun.
So my number three, and by the way, my common thread is gone. My common thread will probably come in the honorable mentions. But my number three, it's an easy one. Major League. That is, again, it's the cast, and it's one of those that they should. It's very much like Caddyshack. Oh, Caddyshack should have been on my list. I didn't even put Caddyshack on my list. That's not really.
Is
a
it guilty
sports movie.
though? Is it guilty?
You're not guilty
But anyway,
about liking that. Nobody is.
Actually, I'm not guilty about any of these, but they're I mean, they're not. My whole thing is they're not good movies, but they're fun. But Major League is one of those things where they should not have done a sequel. Let that one just be, and it's kind of like they hit the jackpot on a slot machine. It was like then they just put it all the money back in and lost it. But anyway, it's quotable, it's fun, it's I mean it's
And to your point about casting, that is a great cast you get some actors at the peak of their powers, you get some actors that are just starting to break through, and it just comes together to like it's showing like, how much of this of making a good movie is just
Charlie
casting.
Sheen before he was nuts, and Corbin Burnson outside of L.A.
Burnson.
Law, and
Bob
Wesley
Uecker,
Snipes.
baby.
Oh gosh,
yeah,
Bob
Bob
Uecker.
Uecker was perfect in that movie. Still, and of course, the Allstate guy who was the Jedi Master in Maul, Pedro Serrano, hats for bats, keep bats warm, and Wesley Snipes. Actually, the last time I watched this, I was like, man, he was such a good comedic actor. He was so funny in that movie, and it was so good. And then after that, everything was Murder at 1600. It was like or Snakes on a Plane, or was he on Snakes on a Plane? No, that was Samuel L. Jackson.
Passenger 57. You're thinking
Passenger
Passenger
57, yes, that's right. He kind of got into that action movie thing, but he was so damn funny in Major League. So yeah. Anyway, that's my third one.
It's a great one. I'm going back into Sylvester Stallone land for number three here, and it's going to be Rocky IV.
Thank you.
That is a guilty pleasure of the Rocky movies. That is the one that is like,
yeah. Like they've flown the plane straight into the side of a mountain by the point this movie came out, but it doesn't matter, because it's like patriotism
at the end of
America.
If I can change and you can change, we all can change. And then Gorbachev gives up and gives him a standing O. Yeah, it was. Yeah.
Oh my gosh! And like, what's great is like they took the trope of him working out to musical orchestration, right? They took that trope, the montage, the workout montage. They took that trope and they duplicate, like they did it like back to back, like they didn't have enough movie, so they just did one, and then all right, on to the next one, and then they did another training montage, and it was so perfect. I didn't have any complaints whatsoever. And Apollo Creed dies, man. You get in the feels a little
James
bit.
Brown living in America.
Yeah, man. Yeah.
The
Gosh,
scene where he's driving the Lambo and gear shifts like 300 times. Like he goes through 300 gear changes as he's reminiscing over all his time with Apollo.
and the
He
kid's
was
got
like
a
with that.
robot for some reason. I don't know. He has a robot. Okay, we've got robots now. Yeah, like the whole movie is ridiculous, but so compelling. Like I can't turn away. I love it.
That's a good one.
Yeah,
That was a good choice.
that was going to be on my list. Yeah. Well, I'm going to stick in the action-y 80s fighting sports genre, and I'm going to say Bloodsport. Kumite, Kumite, Kumite. Okay, first of all, this is the movie that broke Jean-Claude Van Damme from just a model and a stunt guy. He was originally, in case kids did not know, Jean-Claude Van Damme was the original stunt actor for the Predator, the original Predator, before they changed it and made it a 7 foot tall dude. And this is the movie that kind of helped him break out of that and actually become an actual movie star. And it's just the idea of, which, by the way, talking about Rudy and how it's 90% fiction, this movie, it's like 99% fiction. Yes, there's a dude named Frank Dukes. Yes, there was some sort of underground illegal fighting sport tournament to the death. But this thing is borrowing more from Enter the Dragon than anything. It is ridiculous. It is over the top. When Bolo blinds his eyes and he's got to fight blind, in the tournament and all, it is again ridiculous and hilarious and just completely cheesy. There's a young Forrest Whitaker in this, chasing after him as an FBI agent or a military police agent after Jean-Claude Van Damme because they don't want him fighting in this thing. And you're just like, this makes no sense, but it is. Again, you can only do a movie like this in the 80s, and yeah, Kumite. It's got to be in my list.
It pulls so much, like you said, from these Bruce Lee movies that preceded it that were awesome. And it just like ramped up the cheese factor. And then I don't know, like made it more palatable for American audiences in a way because like there were so many cheesy tournament fighting movies that came after this one. Half of them starred Jean-Claude Van Damme.
It was, and to be honest, I think it was more the Karate Kid that just became such a box office match.
Right,
The
yeah, that
tournament
one.
because you had Best of the Best, which is a whole other series we can get into. But it was just a lot of these. But yeah, Jean-Claude Van Damme also had to be fighting in tournaments, which so funny aside. I think this was the movie that inspired the creation of Mortal Kombat. It's originally Mortal Kombat was supposed to be a Jean-Claude Van Damme fighting game in a tournament, and obviously at that point in the 90s, like, I don't need your money, whatever. So they made him Johnny Cage and called it Mortal Kombat, and that's what we get now.
So my last one, and I don't know where I saw this for the first time, and I don't know why, if it's on, I watch it. It's Tin Cup, Kevin Costner and Tin Cup, and first of all, it's golf, so it's a slow sport. It's kind of a slow moving movie, but again, the cast. You got Kevin Costner, you got Rene Russo, right? You got Cheech Marin, who is perfect in the movie. But it's not horribly uplifting either, because he loses, spoiler alert, he loses the US Open. I mean, it's, but there's something compelling to it that, I don't know, I always watch it. So,
That movie Wimbledon is kind of a similar format, right? Where it's a guy who's sort of aging out of it, and yet puts like on one last good hurrah, and like that's an interesting story to follow. Yeah, I can see that one. Um, I'm just gonna go full stupid with the ridiculous football movies here, and just for my last selection, I'm gonna choose Necessary Roughness,
Hmm.
uh, which very similar,
HBO.
very very similar to the Replacements in a lot of ways. Um, ragtag football team that has no business winning, uh, somehow beating the odds uh, through, I guess, sheer force of will. Um, don't really explain it. I don't think it's coaching, and I don't think it's talent. But yeah, they come together and they somehow win games. Um, and yeah, I mean, like it was a vehicle for Scott Bakula, Sinbad. Um, again, kind of like Replacements light, like
Is that the
some
one where Kathy
interesting,
Ireland was
fun
the kicker?
characters. Yeah, Kathy Ireland's the kicker. For the Sports Illustrated fans back in the day, I just remember this movie getting destroyed in reviews, and then eventually watching it, and just my 16-year-old brain was like, this isn't that bad. I enjoy watching this, and subsequent viewings have been um, fine. Like that's not an awful movie, and I can think of other football movies which are more offensive to
Hmm.
watch than this one. So um, yeah, I'm going with that one.
Yeah, all I can think of is Robert Loggia's prayer, or halftime speech when he starts talking about, how he takes this tie and this jacket, and he starts telling his players like, if the head coach was not there because he's having indigestion, it's like if he was here, he'd tear down their necks and bleep bleep down their throats. Like then the face goes, now let us pray. Because they play at Texas school, so of course they all got to sit down. And then Rob Schneider's doing the football announcer role.
Oh
I
yeah,
think
yeah, yeah.
I think that was the first time I ever heard Fumbalaya Fumbleruski before SNL. I think, yeah, it's one of those movies where it helped if you had HBO in the early '90s because it was on a loop. You just saw it again and again. And look, I'm not saying that being 13 and seeing Kathy Ireland taking a shower helped, but it helped. And for my last one, I'm actually going to go with a completely different movie that probably neither of you have seen or probably heard. Well, so you might have heard of the American adaptation, but I'm going with the British version. It's called Fever Pitch. Now, if you hear
Oh
Fever
yeah.
Pitch, most people here think of the dumb Boston Red Sox Jimmy Fallon movie. That movie sucks. That movie's awful. Do not watch that movie. The one I'm talking about is a '90s rom-com starring Colin Firth as an Arsenal supporter in 1988, 89. Now, for just a little background, it's based on a book by Nick Hornby, the author of High Fidelity and About a Boy. If you've ever seen those movies about how much he loves records and music, well, he's also an Arsenal supporter, and he wrote this book, which is more autobiographical. Like it's more like a running diary of his life growing up as a soccer supporter, as an Arsenal supporter, and how it coincided with, his turns in life. As he says, I don't know if my life was awful because my team was awful, or if it was the other way around. The movie itself follows a character that they created, which is like a high school teacher, and he falls in love with another teacher, and they're trying to make it work. But the fact is, right in the middle of all this is the fact that his team is going for the title. It's it is standard mid '90s or late '90s rom com stuff. So in and of itself, the movie is not that great, but obviously as an Arsenal supporter, I have to love it.
I was going to ask
And
if it was not Arsenal, would you have seen the movie?
probably not. Probably not. I wouldn't even write. I mean, I'll be aware of it, but no. It's the fact that I mean, we've had viewing parties, we've seen it. I've seen it plenty of times. It's silly because again, this is also young Colin Firth before he became Mr. Darcy for the fans who will lust after him, and it is silly because it's him and Mark Strong are in there as fans, which is hilarious because they're also fans, and they're just leaning into just the fact that yeah, you can love somebody, but there might be something that they might love just as much as you, and you just got to find room in the middle of all that because yes, there's this girl and you love her, but dang it, the might win the title tonight. And she might just knock at your door at the worst moment in your life, which is when you think your team has lost the title. So again,
You
guilty
know,
pleasure.
somewhere Roger Ebert's going, how did he just speak that much about fever pitch?
Give me 20
You know,
minutes, I'll tell
um,
you know what you did? You created an honorable mention for me because I like the Jimmy Fallon Red Sox movie. And so now that's a guilty pleasure list for me because you hate it so much. So now
well,
it's
speaking of which, okay, so now we're to the honorable mentions. So I'll just run through my honorable mentions, the ones that were left on my list here. This is where the common thread comes in, because I left off with Tin Cup, which was Kevin Costner. Well, Bull Durham is
just a
another
great
one.
movie.
Well,
Great movie.
except for any time that Susan Sarandon's in it, that character drives me bonkers. I don't know. I like every other part of that movie except for when she's on screen. Um, Another Kevin Costner, Draft Day. That
Oh gosh.
God, it doesn't matter where that movie is. If I scroll to it, I'm watching, even if it's the last 5 minutes. Um, and Waterboy is also on my list. Yeah, so those are my honorable mentions. There are others that I could throw on there that I was thinking of. For example, when you started mentioning the Texas school, I was like, oh, Varsity Blues is another one that kind of awful, but that
Go what? Go lie.
I just end up watching that as well. So
I googled sports movies for this exercise, and I don't really have an honorable mention here, but I did want to give a moment of silence and reflection to the fact that there is apparently an Air Bud football movie, not just an Air Bud, basketball movie, however many of those they made, but there's also an Air Bud football movie. I may have to watch that at some point just to
nobody mentioned Space Jam either.
eh, them's not great shakes for me.
Fredo, do you have any honorable mentions?
I got a couple. And well, first of all, I'm surprised none of us mentioned Happy Gilmore. Because that would have
Again,
been
it's a good movie. I'm sorry.
exactly, and that's why I didn't. Part of me also said none of us mentioned the Sean Payton movie starring Kevin. What's his
Oh,
name?
because that wasn't good, and there's nothing I
There's no
watched.
pleasure in
There,
watching that.
there's no
There's no
redemptive.
guilt. You're just guilty there.
It's all
So
guilt, no pleasure.
I'll mention just two that after we went through the list and cleared all the other ones. One's the Mighty Ducks
Oh
because
yeah. Ooh,
that I
but
mean
which
it's bad
one?
news
Yeah.
fair,
No,
but hockey, but
which one? I actually kind of like Dave
one,
chose Rocky 4. I would say Mighty
one.
Ducks 3 is the guilty pleasure.
I will take that. That's not a wrong choice. I always remember going to see it in the movie screen with my little brothers, and it is clearly a kids movie. It's very much Disney, but it's so much fun. And to this day, like I always laugh when I would see at Mardi Gras, all the kids or all the adults who were kids back then wearing the Mighty Ducks jerseys for Mardi Gras. It's always
By the
kind of a
way,
treat.
I,
Mhm.
like just real quick because we talked about the replacement. Replacements was my first one. When Washington changed their mascot, they missed a big opportunity. They should have made the deal. I know, because obviously, the Anaheim Mighty Ducks, but they should have made the deal and they should have made themselves the Washington Sentinels. They would have sold out of Falco jerseys, and I would have bought a Falco jersey, but they missed it. Anyway, go ahead, Fredo. Sorry.
And then no, my other movie, which is it is a good movie, so I don't necessarily know pleasure per se, but I'm gonna mention because it's just on the top of my head, and it's another Disney movie. It's Miracle, and I kind of throw it in here more than anything because it's very much paint by numbers. It's not the most compelling movie ever made. There's no dynamic filmmaking here. It's
Is that
not over the
the
top.
hockey?
Right,
The
the Miracle on Ice, the Disney adaptation, which they made, which I actually saw in theaters, and it's funny because I remember people like when they have Erusione score the go-ahead goal, people stood up and cheered. I'm like, wait, were you not around in 1980 when this happened? I know I was a 3-year-old, but come on now, you guys were grown when that. The movie does build to that moment, and it does such a good job of getting you to care for all these kids. And Kurt Russell just nails the heck out of the role. Again, it is not a great movie. It's kind of paint by numbers, kind of straightforward. It is very much aimed right at Disney. I think Disney was in the middle of making a whole lot of like feel good sports movies in the early to mid 2000s, and this was right in his wheelhouse. But it's just well done, and it's fun and it's enjoyable, and you like the characters, and that kind of gets you over any issues you have with the movie.
Hey, I was gonna say, to dovetail off of that light a little bit, it's these stories that tell a quote unquote true story that deviate and like take a sharp left turn. Like that was a category for me where I was like, man, how historically inaccurate a movie must be for me to feel guilty about watching it. So that was one of the common themes, and then the other was just like how lowbrow it was. Yeah, it just, oh gosh, yeah, lowest common denominator here. But yeah, there's a lot. I like We Are Marshall.
Yeah, that's a good movie.
It takes liberties. I feel a little guilty on that level. It takes liberties. Remember the Titans is like that's not very historically accurate, but
it's many people's favorite sports movie.
Really good movie. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, when you see us at Running of the Bulls Saturday morning, tell us what your guilty pleasure sports movie is. So, but until then, we'll say who dat?
Who dat?
Who dat?
Everybody have a fantastic week.
McConkey.